Homelessness in LA County is a problem. There are around 48,000 people sleeping on the streets, in cars, and in shelters on any given night. Currently, $1 billion in public and private funds is spent to aid the homeless. Prominent business leaders have been working with officials for almost a year to come up with a plan to find solutions. Here's your plan. Put a permanent roof over the heads of most of those sleeping on the streets and provide them counseling and treatment. The cost, $230 million. Yeah, it seems like a good idea, but is it the answer? Is it fair to set aside housing subsidies for the chronically homeless when other vulnerable people have been waiting years? It's obvious these people need some help. Then again, so do a lot of people. Do you commit $230 million for the homeless, David?
Yeah, because word up, we're already spending many times that amount for homeless people and various services already. I mean, this is actually a kind of a good deal if you think about it, because it's kind of like the illegal immigration thing, if I may draw this parallel real quick here. We're already paying a ton of money to hospitals and emergency room care for undocumented people because they can't get legitimate medical care here. It's kind of the same thing with homeless people. I mean, they use the emergency room as their medical care because they can't get it anywhere else. So if we just get real about this and start putting our money where our mouth is and spending, what is it, $230 million to try to get the chronically homeless off the streets, we'll probably end up saving money in the long run because, by the way, we spend many times that right now on mental health services and that kind of thing. So do I think it's a good idea? Yes, but I think you know, one of the LA supervisors, his concern was the same concern that I have, and I'm sure Charlotte's going to weigh in on this, is that we got to address why people are homeless. And if you don't address substance abuse and mental health and all the reasons why people can't keep housing over their heads and can't keep you know, a job, then you've lost the war. So, you know, as long as they put the money to the real root problems, I think it's probably a good idea. We'll end up saving money in the long run.
Given the way things are going tonight, I'm almost afraid to ask, but Charlotte, what do you think?
Well, actually, I pretty much agree with David on this one. I think that it really is a good idea to help the most vulnerable in society, and I see those, one group of those as homeless people. I like the idea of providing some kind of basic place for them to live. I remember seeing the movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith and being shocked that these people have to pick up and move every night and they don't have a place for their stuff. There's no way to get your feet back on the ground and get a job if you're just in limbo all the time like that. But as far as, you know, additional monies and services, I think that first of all, I wouldn't require them to see a psychiatrist and give up the alcohol and take certain pills. I would actually give them a lot more freedom to make their own decisions. And I would do a cost-benefit analysis as to what programs are really going to be offered and what's really going to help and what's going to make sense for society at large. But you're right, David. We spend a lot of money on, we put them in a prison or we put them in a psychiatric ward, and we spend a ton more money with that than we would if we were to put it in this program. Exactly. And I would get the money from the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Agency, because they already have access to $1 billion a year, and they've had scandals and all sorts of problems and bad projects. Don't make the taxpayer pay that $230 million extra that they want. Take it from the CRA. That's what I say.
All right. Well, Charlotte, you solved that one. Let's see if you can solve this one. There was a time when the last thing you wanted to do if you reported the news was become the news. That was then. This is now. Keith Olbermann is news. He was suspended for making campaign contributions without notifying his boss at MSNBC, which is a violation of company policy. Then he blasted NBC for suspending him. Tonight he made his return, and he had this to say.
I think we saw where the political contribution system is working for transparency and democracy and where it is failing transparency and democracy. I made legal political contributions as a U.S. citizen near midnight Eastern on Thursday night, October 28th. By 10 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night, November 4th, those contributions were public knowledge. And that's the point. I gave, and you found out, and you judged me for good or for ill as you felt appropriate.
All right. Does MSNBC look good or look bad in its decision to suspend Olbermann, David?
Well, of course they look bad. And look at the groundswell of people who wanted him back. I mean, you know, 200,000 something votes on Facebook alone. But I mean, here's the issue, which MSNBC needs to figure out. They can't have it both ways. They have gone left of center, just like Fox News has gone right of center. So do the news ethics of impartiality really apply here anymore? You know, it's not like Keith Olbermann cuts his path right down the middle anyway. You know, if you're CNN, which bills itself as being the middle of the road news station, station, then that'd be one thing. But, you know, these people on both sides, on MSNBC, they go left, on Fox, they go right. You know, I mean, they kind of wear their opinions on their sleeves. So, you know, do we really want to hold them to these news ethics? I mean, I just think it's time that MSNBC wise up and smell the coffee and realize that whether they like it or not, guess what? Your hosts have opinions, and they're going to use you know, their bully pulpit to talk about it. And, you know, do they have the right to donate money? Well, the Fox News people do.
All right, what do you think, Charlotte? Do they have the right to donate money?
Well, it's not just MSNBC that has a company policy like this. CBS News has a policy. New York Times has a policy. So
but neither of them have cable channels either, CBS or the New York Times. You know what I mean? It's a little gray when you start getting into Fox and NBC,
when I say they have policies, their policies may not have to do with contributing money to particular candidates. But for example, I read that CBS News, you can't put up a personal blog without getting approval from management. New York Times, you can't go outside of your work and make opinions that are contrary to what would be printed in their paper. So, you know, in one sense, I understand that point of view from the news organization. On the other hand, Keith Olbermann was not giving an inconsistent message. It's not like he was giving money to Sarah Palin, which would have freaked everybody out. So I can understand that. But I think the bigger issue is do we really have free speech rights if we're working for a private company? It seems like we only really have free speech when we're asleep. Why? Because apparently federal law is you don't have any free speech rights when you're at work. And when you're outside of work, apparently in the state of California, if you damage your company, which is a very subjective thing to evaluate, you actually can be reprimanded or fired by the company. So in a sense, when you're asleep, that's about it, folks.
All right, well, let me tell you a couple of things. First, Charlotte, I'm not going to reprimand you at all for your comments about nobody in Los Angeles watches sports. I'm going to let you slide on that. Second of all, in the filter, you can say whatever you want, whenever you want. And lastly, in the filter, you can donate to anybody at any time. We don't care. David and Charlotte, nice job. Thanks very much.
Nice.
Okay. Do the words Twinkie and diet ever belong in the same sentence?
If you're so smart, prove it. Contact NBC Filter on Twitter or Facebook, or send an email to thefilter@nbcuni.com. We care what you think, but if we don't like it, we'll filter you.